Hey, what's up guys, Old7. I'm making this video for two things: to show the burst of the Frost DK with the dual wield and a couple of macros that I use. So I'm going to start off doing this burst. The burst, I'm going to go ahead and just engage with using Frost Strike. Then I'll pop my one-shot macro and just do the Howling Blast spam with a couple of Plague Strikes to get my runic power up as high as I possibly can. And I'll dump on my runic power, which will give me some blood tap charges, and just keep going through the cycle of spamming Howling Blast, Plague Strikes, and then dumping my runes. And I'm going to try to do a burst of about 30 seconds or so and see what my damage, my DPS is. Now I've been popping about 80k of DPS, and also staying in between 60 and 70 depending on how many times my let me get rid of this. Depending on how many times my killing machine procs. Now just take note of how many times my killing machines do proc and the damage it does when I go ahead and use my Frost Strike with killing machine. So let's start this off and see what we can do. Here we go. There's 90k DPS right there. See, now I've got a small pause right here because I don't have my... There goes the blood tap. See, I like to control my runic regeneration. There's going to be a slight pause in between, but of course when I'm really slow on my runic regeneration, I can just still pop my runic empower weapon and get my my runic power full. See, it's almost full now. Now I can go ahead and dump, and I'm waiting for a ice machine to proc. Okay, I'm sustaining right about 70. It looks like my burst is up again. Here comes the burst. See, 70k crits for the Frost Strike. Let's stop there. It's about a minute and a half or so. And so we got about a minute and a half. The DPS, I think it was, the peak was 86k DPS, and the damage in about a minute and a half. There you go, almost 8 million damage in a minute and a half on the Raiders training dummy. Now the problem with dual wielding is this: you're not going to get a lot of killing blows, but you're going to dump so much pressure on a single target in such little time because of how many times your killing machines proc. And I can control my runes with my blood taps. You're going to notice a pause every now and again of about 2 seconds between I can cast or use any one of my runes. I think that's doable, a couple of seconds in between attacks. And the reason why you're not going to get a whole lot of killing blows is because I don't use Obliterate. There's no reason for it, especially when I'm hitting 70k with my crits. Frost Strikes, and I can dump 2 or 3 of them. You see how many times I'm proccing. But again, the Obliterate with two-handed is much like a Chaos Bolt, is that finishing kill. But you're gonna, again, the job with dual wield is to provide so much pressure, and you're still hitting so hard that a lot of times in an RBG they can't keep up with that amount of pressure on a single target, especially when there's 2 or 3 people focusing it down. Now I'm spec'd. I'll show you where my stats are at. First, there's my resilience. And my PvP power. You can see that I'm stacked a lot of resilience. Frost DKs are really squishy. And here's my mastery. I'm really spec'd into mastery. I do mastery and crit is what I'm reforged into. And again, because I can control my runes using blood tap as opposed to the other skills. Yeah, here we go. I'm using this as my arena build. I use Asphyxiate, of course. In RBGs, you want to use Chilblains, in my opinion. But Runic Corruption and Runic Power Weapon is only a 45% chance here. I don't like leaving my rune generation a chance, honestly. And that's why I use blood tabs, so I can control those. Now let's go to my macros really quickly. And you can see my tell me when. This is how my Naga again is set up. With my burst down here. Usually Gorfiends is right here. Here we're going. Yeah, we're going to my macros. Alright, my burst. Here it is. Outbreak. Reach my trinket. And then that's Pillar of Frost stacks for that trinket and Horn of Winter. The reason why I use Horn of Winter is for a couple of things. And one, it gives you some runic power. Watch. See, it gives you that extra 10 or 11 runic and power, and that's half of a blood tap or half of a frost strike. Plus, if you don't have it up, you know, your Horn of Winter, make sure that is up for you in your burst. Now, if you're not doing rateds, you can go ahead and put your Mogu power in there for your burst. You can do a couple other buffs you buy from the auction house, but that's pretty much the one-shot burst. And they call it one-shot because you're not going to hit one time and kill them, but it's that within that 15-second time frame you can get a kill. So it's that one shot using your Pillar of Frost and your trinket. And my other macros I use is my Lichborn heal. That'll pretty much cast your Death Coil on your own player. You can I've been able to, when you pop AMS and your runic power jumps up to the top, you can Lichborn heal yourself all the way down. If you're getting attacked from casters, the AMS is going to build your runic power back up again. You can pretty much heal from, I would say, 5 or 10% back up to 100%, and when you get hit again, you can heal again up from 50% back up to 100%. So you're looking at 150% heal just from Lichborn heals. Now I'm going to show my other heal here. Now, because I'm a one-handed player, I have to bind these two together. I'm just the evil of playing with one hand is that I have to bind those two. I can pop AMS. Icebound Fortitude does use runic power, and I'm okay with that. AMS charges every 45 seconds, so it's not a big deal for me to pop both those at the same time. And a Gorfiend's Grasp, of course, is macroed to myself, so I can run into a Ring of Frost, or if a good Frost Mage knows what he's doing with boomies, and they know what and the boomies know what they're doing, you can go coordinate the Ring of Frost cast on top of you. Macro your Gorfiend's Grasp, everybody pulls into the Ring of Frost, and then you have a solar beam. You can throw your Typhoons. You can do the mass AoE snare with the Warlock, and that works great. And here's my heals. The reason why I use Blood Presence when I go ahead and cast my heal is your Blood Presence, of course, jumps your stamina up, and then your Death Pack charges according to your stamina. So you're going to get much more heals when you get the Blood Presence, and then your Death Pack and your Health Stone. I have that in here, so when I do, like, you know, randoms or Call to Arms, you can heal all the way up. And again, when you're getting really pressured and you need to use your sack your pet, it's good to go in Blood Presence anyway, so it gives your healers a little bit of pressure off of them. And that's that macro. Now you're going to see I macro Howling Blast and Necrotic Strikes. That's because I use my Howling Blast into my Blood Tap. So whenever I cast a Howling Blast, it's going to activate a rune. Same thing with Necrotic Strike. And when I do my two-handed, I have it in there as well. Now here's my interrupt. My Strangulate is, go ahead and pop your Strangulate, and if you have it glyphed, they're silenced for 8 seconds instead of like the 2 or the 3 or 4, if I'm not mistaken. Now Strangulate does have a 1 minute cooldown compared to Asphyxiate, which I think is 45 seconds. So the reason why I have it reset to 60 is you still use your Mind Freeze, and again, this is why I have, as a one-handed player, I have, once I use my Strangulate, now I have my Mind Freeze interrupts as well. And that's what that's trinketed into, or that's what that's macroed into. Here's another one of my trinkets, and this is a cast sequence, of course, when I'm running arenas or just regular battlegrounds, not RBGs, because you got to use Gorfiend's Grasp. You have 2 trinkets here, and that's why I love the utility of Desecrate Ground. You can always use the Chains of Ice into your Death Grips if you want to. Sometimes it roots them down where you can't pull them, That's up to you if you want to use that or not. I use a lot of mouse overs, like my Chains of Ice mouse over. That way when you're in battlegrounds like the mines and you're trying to keep them in contact and they're peeling, you can just randomly just cast as they're running away. And I like that. And also macro Death and Decay through my mouse. It's just a one push button and there you go, it's up. I'm trying to see what other ones I have. That's pretty much it for my macros. And same thing when I use Soul Reaper, using the blood tap. And that's it. So you see the amount of damage that a dual wield can do in the huge burst that it starts off with, at a peak at 80k of damage per second. And I love to I like dual wielding personally for RBGs and sometimes for arenas, but again, the downside of the dual wield is you don't have that finishing blow, that obliterate that can crit to 150 up to 170 depending on the enemy's resilience, and that's much like, again, a Chaos Bolt. But I'm okay with that, I really am. And to defend the dual wield, I also have a video of dual wield versus two-handed, you can check that out. But if you ask most DKs, especially in the 1900 to 2K bracket, which is right about where I'm at, is 19 to 2K for RBG, they really can't explain why they don't use dual wield. It's just they copycat other DKs. It's quite obvious that dual wield is effective, and in my opinion just as effective as two-handed, depending on what you're wanting to do. If you want to get the killing blows, then you want to go two-hand. But that's why I like to use Warlocks. Let them have the killing blow. They're going to get it with the Chaos Bolt. You go ahead and call for the Chaos Bolt, and they'll get the killing blow as opposed to you as a DK. And I'm okay with that, again, as long as the pressure's there. So I hope this video helped you out with macros for Frost DK, as well as explaining why I dual wield again, and to show the burst of the dual wield. Now, of course, gear is a big thing here. I do have both tyrannical gear weapons. At this point in time, I have the tyrannical cape and your chest piece. I think I have a ring and a trinket. A ring and a trinket there. So there it is.